fly a bit higher.
No finals chance whatsoever. That most Footscray supporters would have thought they could have done a lot better. But I don't think we should underestimate Fitzroy, because Fitzroy, I'm certain, are a lot better side than their position on the ladder suggests. It was a tough game. There was a lot of spite in the game, a lot of niggling, a lot of pushing and shoving, and certainly the feeling was running high between both those sides. But Matt Rendell's great performance back in the ruck, and of course Fitzroy, Footscray I should say, with Percival down, Bamblett and Beasley being held on the forward line, it did bring them back to the field. But Fitzroy, a much better side than their position on the ladder indicates.
Bob Davis yesterday saw Melbourne. Fitzroy's Ross Lyon backing into the pack. Footscray's Neil Peart. And completing our contenders today, Fitzroy's Tim Peake. And to our panel headed by Bob Davis.
Well,
Kevin Bartlett.
Well, first of all, Robert, three-quarter time, you seem to be pretty upset with the umpires, and I know that you don't wish to actually say anything about what you said to the umpires simply because there's fines involved in VFL football. But why did you take Nettlefold across to you to the centre?
Well, Michael was the closest player to me, and I knew I had to walk through the centre. It was pretty heavy and muddy there, and I thought if I get bogged, I'll need someone to drag me out.
Do you think that going across the umpires at three-quarter time helped Fitzroy in the final quarter, because you were 3 goals down as you walked back? There was wild applause from the Fitzroy supporters. Do you think it made a point to the Fitzroy players for a big effort?
Well, I think that our players appreciated the support of our supporters, and that was evident at all breaks in the game. And I think our supporters appreciated the fact that we kept having a go at it throughout the day. And you know, we didn't win the game, but we didn't lose anything as far as effort was concerned.
Michael, 3 goals up at three-quarter time. Were you a bit disappointed, considering Footscray's position on the ladder compared to Fitzroy's, that in fact you did finally scrape in by 5 points?
Well, I've always had a high regard for Fitzroy, and I realised that the last quarter 3 goals wasn't going to be really enough to get carried away with, and I thought we'd have to fight and particularly get that first goal on the board to, you know, get a 24-point break. But Fitzroy kept at us. We made mistakes in the last quarter which I wasn't pleased with, and it let Fitzroy back into the game. Almost cost us the game.
Well, of course, next week you play Hawthorn, and you haven't beaten Alan Jeans as a coach since you've been at Footscray. I just wonder whether you thought your performance against Fitzroy was good enough to tackle Hawthorn.
Well, the thing about yesterday was that we hung on and got 4 points, and at this stage of the season it's vital that we keep winning.
Just keep winning.
And it gives the players enough impetus to go on. Now, maybe a loss yesterday may have just taken a bit out of us, and that's the thing is, the 4 points are invaluable. So it'll just hopefully recharge us for next week.
Robert, Matt Rendell yesterday played a great game for Fitzroy. If he had have been fit all year, and I know it's only hypothetical, but your chances of being a Final 5 side would have been pretty bright, I would say.
I'd agree with that, Kevin, because he's, you know, he's such a good player. He's captain of the side, and he's a ruckman who is around the middle of the ground and brings so many other players into it, and he's a very good player. And we certainly miss him when he's out.
Right.
But you know, credit to Mark Scott when Mark's had to step in. He's done a very good job too. So even though losing Matt for many games has been disappointing, we did find that Mark Scott could certainly, you know, step in and do a good job for us.
Michael, Neil Peart. First of all, he was a Collingwood player, went to Richmond, couldn't get a game at all this year, played in the reserves. You lined him up at centre-half forward yesterday. I thought he had a great duel with Roos. I thought Peart in front in the first half, and I thought Roos came back in the second half. You've had trouble there all year. You've played several players, including Gronewagen there and Jimmy Sewell. Can Neil Peart hold down the important spot for you in the finals?
Well, the games that he's played there for us at centre forward the last 2 or 3 weeks have been very impressive. He's a competitor, and I think at centre half forward that if you're prepared to put your body in and compete hard for the ball, then you've got every opportunity to perform well. And he played on a bloke, Roos, who's state centre half back, who's a very good player. And I agree with you that for the first half I thought that he kept us in the game by his bullocking and use of the football. I think it was the third quarter we kicked 2 goals for us, which helped us get that break. So yes, I think he can perform pretty well for us here.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Robert, and best luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Kev.
Nick and Robert, we have the reluctant women launch.
And for St Kilda,
Well, Fitzroy's performance indicated that they are a far better side than where they are on the ladder at the moment. And to come back in the last quarter after Footscray led by 3 goals to finally go down by 5 points was certainly something for the Fitzroy supporters to look forward to the future. But as far as the Footscray supporters were concerned, a little bit disappointing because at the moment Footscray in second place, you would expect them to be able to account for Fitzroy. Unfortunately for the Bulldogs side, they had a lot of players down. Purser in the ruck was well beaten by Matt Rendell. Beasley at full forward was held by Pert. And of course, tagging roles by Pekin and Nettlefold held Royal and Bahaja around the packs.
What was that terrible story about Paul Roos yesterday? Was there any stories out in the ground about that?
Well, I suppose it's best to ask maybe David Parkin in Club Corner about that. But I mean,
what did you hear around the ground?
Well, I never heard anything to suggest that Paul Roos would be leaving Fitzroy, and I think that Fitzroy supporters and the club would be very disappointed if he did, because he's a young player that's come up through the ranks and from their local zones, and in fact it'd be disappointing to see if he was whisked away.
He said he's not going, by the way. He said on TV last night he is not going, so that clarifies that.
Kevin, what real justification have you got for saying that Fitzroy played better than they should? They should be higher on the ladder because they only been beaten twice by the bottom side. I mean, why do you say they should be higher?
Well, because of the personnel in their side. I mean, they've got Pert and Roos and Osborne.
They've all played during the year.
I know, 3 of the best young players. They've certainly missed Matt Rendell right throughout the year. Now, the last 2 weeks they've beaten Collingwood, and they've gone very close to beating the second top side yesterday. He plays the kickback behind the play to perfection, and he brings so many players into the game.
Are there a couple of Footscray players, Kevin, you think they've had a big season, have gone off the boil a little bit?
Well, I'm not quite certain whether they've gone off the boil, but of course yesterday Royal, who's a very good player, was tagged, and Bahaja's also been a very good player for them. Purser is an important player, and yesterday he was well down, and I think if Purser's down and Royal and Bahaja held around the packs and Beasley at full forward, well of course, and Bamblett, I must say that Grant Laurie did a fantastic job on curbing Bandit, so most of their match winners were struggling.
KB, your votes, please.
Well, yesterday I gave 1 vote to Stevie Wallace in the centre for Footscray, a very good player. 2 votes I gave to Brad Hardy, who started the game off slowly, but certainly knows how to position himself. He is loose, as Bob Davis has said before, but he wins the ball and he kicked beautifully yesterday in the conditions. And I gave 3 votes to Matt Rendell, who absolutely starred for Fitzroy. He was really the stumbling block for the Footscray side.
All right, thank you, KB. Coming up in just a moment, we'll be looking at the clash between St Kilda and Melbourne.
Here's a superb family-style hotel. The old